Have you ever stopped to think about why buying something new feels so pleasurable? But saving money seems like such a boring task? It's not just a matter of willpower, it's your brain. Every time you click Buy Now, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical that gives us that feeling of reward, pleasure, and even addiction. On the other hand, saving, quiet, invisible, with delayed results, barely triggers a similar reaction. In a world designed to offer instant gratification, from apps to storefronts, your brain is being manipulated, not for your benefit, but to drive profits. And unless you understand what's going on behind this impulse, you'll keep chasing small hits of pleasure at the expense of your financial future. The problem begins with an invisible trap. Our brain's reward system wasn't designed for the modern economy. It evolved to motivate us to seek things that ensured our immediate survival: food, shelter, safety. Today, those ancient impulses are triggered by very different stimuli. A flash sale, the sound of a notification, the seductive design of a new product. The brain interprets these situations as opportunities for quick reward, releasing dopamine even before the purchase takes place. And when the reward arrives, the circuit gets reinforced. Spending becomes pleasure. Meanwhile, saving money doesn't activate the same triggers. There's no visual stimulus, no engaging sound, no instant gratification. When you put money aside, all the brain sees is the absence of the pleasure it could have felt. And since it prefers certainty now over possibilities later, resisting the impulse to consume requires conscious effort, something that, for the brain, uses up energy and goes against its natural programming. That's the crucial point. We are not biologically wired to cope with an economy of abundance and overstimulation. The modern environment amplifies this imbalance. We are constantly bombarded with messages that link happiness to consumption, belonging to ownership, and success to a visible lifestyle. This creates a reality where financial self-discipline is not just difficult, it feels almost unnatural. Instead of feeling rewarded for saving, we feel like we're missing out, falling behind, living with less than we could. That sense of deprivation, even when illusory, is emotionally powerful. And the worst part? The more we follow this cycle, the stronger it becomes. Dopamine doesn't just reward us, it teaches us to repeat behaviors. So with every impulsive purchase, the brain reinforces the idea that this is the most efficient way to feel pleasure. Over time, saving stops being a simple, rational choice and becomes a fight against deep conditioning. A fight many people don't even realize they're losing. Behind the impulse to spend lies something much deeper than just consumption. It's about our relationship with time, desire, and emptiness. Dopamine isn't just a chemical linked to pleasure. It's directly connected to the anticipation of reward. In other words, what truly drives us isn't the pleasure itself, but the promise of it. Spending money, in that sense, becomes an attempt to fill a void, a craving for immediate satisfaction that we often can't even name. It's the momentary relief of an existential crisis, the need to feel alive, in control, achieving something. Saving, on the other hand, demands a much more abstract and almost philosophical view of life. It means giving up immediate pleasure for the sake of a future possibility, one that isn't guaranteed, that has no clear shape, and might never arrive. Very few of us were emotionally prepared to deal with that kind of waiting. Today's society doesn't teach us how to tolerate emptiness or uncertainty. On the contrary, it bombards us with instant solutions for every discomfort. In this context, saving feels almost counterintuitive, an act of faith in the future and resistance to the present. This tension between present and future is one of the great silent tragedies of modern life. Rationally, we know that saving is the path to freedom, to peace of mind, to independence. But emotionally, we're drawn to the now, because the now is tangible, rewarding, and most of all, addictive. Dopamine teaches us to love the quick path, not the lasting one. And meanwhile, we keep postponing the construction of a life based not on impulses, but on conscious choices. At its core, spending is easy because it's comfortable. Saving is hard because it's an act of maturity. It's a decision that demands awareness, emotional control, and above all, a deep commitment to the person we want to become. It's about letting go of immediate pleasure in order to build meaning. And that search for deeper meaning, can't be solved with a click, but with an honest look within. Think about that Friday night when you're tired, stressed, and decide to order delivery. Not because you're really hungry, but because you feel like you deserve a treat after a tough week. Or that moment when you're scrolling through social media and an ad pops up for something you didn't even know you wanted, but now suddenly seems essential. These decisions seem small, almost automatic, but they're clear examples of how the brain seeks quick rewards as a way to cope with emotional tension and a lack of positive stimulation. Spending becomes a relief, an escape, a chemical comfort wrapped in marketing and convenience. At work, the logic isn't much different. How many times have you received your paycheck and thought, now I deserve something special? That feeling of deserving is built on an emotional belief that consumption is a form of recognition, a validation of your effort. But the problem is, when you constantly seek this kind of reward, your brain adapts and begins to require increasingly stronger stimuli to feel the same pleasure. What used to be an occasional treat becomes an invisible routine of spending that, over time, erodes your ability to build stability. Even in the most planned-out decisions, like buying a new phone or taking a trip, dopamine is still at play. You start dreaming about the object or the experience. You feel the anticipation grow. You imagine how it will improve your life. And when it finally happens, the euphoria fades quickly. The pleasure isn't in the possession, but in the anticipation. And as soon as the dopamine wears off, the brain is already searching for the next source of excitement. That's why, even after major purchases, we often return to the same emptiness. The cycle begins again, along with the illusion that the next purchase will bring lasting satisfaction. Meanwhile, saving doesn't generate that same kind of excitement. There's no event tied to the act of putting money aside. It's quiet, invisible, and often solitary. You don't post on social media about what you didn't buy. No one applauds you for resisting consumption. And that's exactly why saving requires a different kind of motivation. One that comes from within, anchored in a deeper sense of purpose. It's when you start asking yourself, what do I really want to build with what I have? That mindset shift happens in everyday life, in small decisions, in conscious pauses before giving in to an impulse. And that's where true transformation begins. Spending activates a powerful brain circuit designed to reward us quickly and keep us moving forward. It's a natural response in a world that's been artificially built to exploit this vulnerability. Saving, on the other hand, goes against that primitive impulse. It's choosing the long-term over immediacy, the quiet of building over the noise of instant gratification. And that choice, though difficult, is the foundation of any true financial freedom. Understanding this mechanism isn't just about money. It's about awareness, about reclaiming control over your own behavior. The dopamine economy can't be fixed with magic formulas or automated spreadsheets. It requires a deeper look into our habits, emotions, and triggers. It takes courage to recognize that many of our financial decisions aren't rational. They're emotional, instinctive, and conditioned by a system that trains us to consume before we even stop to think. And only when we start questioning that pattern do we create space for real change. A change that doesn't start in your wallet, it starts in your mind. So, if you feel like you're always chasing the next high but never reaching true financial peace, maybe it's time to pause and observe. Observe what drives you, what pushes you to spend, and what holds you back from saving. Because the problem was never a lack of discipline. The problem is that no one ever taught you how your brain actually works. And now that you know, you can finally start using it to your advantage. If this content made you reflect on your financial habits and sparked a desire to better understand how your brain influences your choices with money, then this channel is the right place for you. Here, we don't just talk about finances. We talk about awareness, behavior, and real transformation. Subscribe and turn on notifications to keep following this journey of financial self-discovery. Because changing your relationship with money is, above all, about changing the way you see yourself in the world.